Hello, my dear listeners. Once again, this is retired Lieutenant Colonel Samsudeen Sarr, former commander of the Gambian National Army, being back today, Monday, the 20th of November, 2023. And as usual, continuation of reading my book, Testimony of a Gambian Military Officer and a Diplomat. But before we delve into chapter 24 of my book, which I'm going to read today, I would like to provide some context here. The preceding chapters, including a portion of the current one, were part of the first edition published in 2006 by Ex Libris Publishing Company in the United States of America. The original book, titled Coup d'etat by the Gambia National Army, is still available for purchase on Amazon. As mentioned in my prologue, this second edition, titled Testimony of a Gambian Military Officer and Diplomat, seamlessly continues the narrative from where it left off in 2000 and extends through 2023. This period witnessed significant changes, notably the departure of President Haja Jane and the subsequent assumption of office by President Amadou Barry, the current head of state. Consequently, chapter 24 introduces fresh material unique to this edition, shedding light on a completely new phenomenon absent in the first edition. So I invite you to join me in exploring the second part of chapter 24, where we uncover these novel elements and gain deeper insight into the evolving narrative. Chapter 24, My Family, Reconciliation Factors with President Jane. It had been 7 years since I voluntarily left with my family on exile to the United States in 1999 and had since been living in the city of Newark, the state of New Jersey. Between the years 2000 and 2006, the period I spent writing and publishing my book Coup d'etat by the Gambia National Army, I maintained an online Facebook page where I shared most of the stories also contained in this book. I published some of the stories with any online newspaper interested in carrying them. Prominent among those news outlets that published my stories were the Freedom newspaper, the Kainako newspaper, and the Gambia Echo newspaper, all under the management of Gambian dissidents living in the United States. In the end, I became one of the most sought after consultants and witnesses on the events of the military takeover of the AFPRC in 1994. President Jane had by then succeeded in striking fear in the hearts of his opponents, real or perceived, while continuing to impress his supporters with generosity and remarkable infrastructural developments brought to the country since he overthrew the PPP government of President Sir Dembo Jawara. To his credit, he changed the poor work ethic inherited from his predecessor by instilling absolute fear in the hearts of people, especially civil servants. His government's projects were expected to be completed on time with all funds accounted for, and failure to do so resulted in severe consequences for those responsible. Under his leadership, the country saw significant progress, including the establishment of the first Gambian television station, a fairly modern international airport, elaborate highways and feeder roads with adequate electrification, sufficient schools and hospitals, and unexpected bridges like the one at Karawan that most Gambians and non-Gambians thought it was impossible to construct. However, the impossibility of constructing the North Bank region's Kerewan Bridge was largely attributed to superstitious beliefs. Notwithstanding, there was a glaring disparity in Jane's approach to corruption. While he enforced strict accountability on others, he seemed to be exempted from the same standards, accumulating immeasurable wealth that he attributed to either the Bank of God, Allah, or aid from generous donor countries assisting the Gambia. His actions sometimes bordered on the bizarre, such as claiming to have magical powers, including the ability to communicate with wild bees from his ancestral background, or being mandated by supernatural forces to cure various human ailments, including HIV or AIDS. Despite my skepticism, many Gambians living in a superstitious world believe in Jane's supposed powers. Even soldiers in the army thought he was invincible and immune to bullets due to his mystical influence. I believe that President Jane's bizarre spiritual matters prevalent within him and around his government were mostly reinforced by his encouragement of mystic powers and his pretentious possession of such abilities. The other part was, of course, a matter of reinforcing the cultural heritage of his background. The Gambian people had throughout history seriously believed in supernatural forces associated with certain individuals, regions, and events far more than what science or nature could tangibly explain. President Jane's home village of Kedula was among those special places in the country and was revered for decades as the home of certain spiritual doctors who specialize in curing bone fractures. I had in fact written extensively in previous chapters how the president in numerous occasions tried to show people that he was endowed with special supernatural powers and how he would take the mystical dogma to another level. Nevertheless, one particular exhibition of his spiritual powers one day failed to go down well with what he initially claimed were ancestral bees he personally owned. It was on a visit to his village, Kedula, where I happened to be present as the deputy army commander. In a strange demonstration of his control of the wild bees living in a heat tree, he ended up provoking them into attacking and almost killing him. The villagers had to rush and rescue him to prevent a major disaster that day. Then, in 2007, January 2007, Jani made another grandiose spiritual claim, announcing that he had been mandated by supernatural forces through the Holy Quran to rid the Gambia of HIV or AIDS, asthma, cancer, hypertension, and other ailments. I was aware of his failed attempt in the late 90s to peddle his curative magic powers to asthma patients, which he had conducted secretly in the State House. Despite his unconventional claims and actions, Jani remained a dominant figure in Gambian politics, maintaining a firm grip on power while wielding an air of invincibility. President Jani went on to open a clinic at the State House and at his native village of Kedula to show the world how he cured people suffering from AIDS. The Gambian television and radio services showed live broadcasts of the president's weekly treatments. They were embarrassing and indeed very unpresidential. When a senior UN representative in the country, Fats Guara Denzemba, warned the Gambians to be cautious of the treatment because of its lack of scientific basis, the woman was given 48 hours to leave the country. She was declared persona non grata and left the Gambia immediately. But I also later began to sense certain actions applied by President Jane to deal with me. Apart from the messages he was discreetly sending to me through family members, friends, and associates expressing his regret over what he did to me and how he would want me to go back home. He backed his words with real actions that were seen and heard all over the Gambia. For instance, in 2003, he offered a special and very lucrative contract to the husband of my sister to take care of the electrical aspect of a newly built community hospital in Carnegie, Combo St. Mary Division. Mr. Jeng had an electrical supply store and company called Jeng Electrical and was married to my blood sister, Lita Sarr, who was also running a private airline ticketing agency. The electrical contract with Mr. Jeng didn't end well in 2004. But soon after that, Jane started to patronize Lika's airline business, which later turned into a huge success. Jane didn't only help Lika develop the business, he also frequently invited her to state functions and private ceremonies where her presence was always captured on television. Notwithstanding, my sister was fully aware of my anti-Jane stance and never tried to talk me into reconciling with him. My life in America, together with my family, had taken a course of no return. We were all permanent residents, waiting for the next phase of naturalizing, which we all did in 2011. But again, in 2005, Jane, perhaps upon realizing that my sister and her husband couldn't do much to pacify me and bring us closer together, applied another strategy. Suddenly one morning, my wife, Fatima Najib, told me that Jane's younger brother, Sumana Jane, was courting Amin Najib, the daughter of her elder brother, Muhammad Najib, for marriage. Young Sumana Jane was sponsored by his brother, President Jane, to study in the United States of America, and upon completing his studies, was appointed managing director of his private business enterprise called the Kedula Group International, KGI. It was a family business created by President Jane and was involved in all kinds of commerce that rapidly expanded all over the country. According to my wife, it was President Jane himself who sent a delegation of elders to my wife's brother to arrange for the marriage with an undisclosed amount of money for the dowry. The amount was only purported to be huge. The wedding happened in the same quick manner as the proposal. And again, Jane paid for the whole ceremony in a grand style and started to pump money to family members of the family. Sumana Jane, commonly known Suma Jane, also turned out to be a very generous in-law and had soon become the favorite son-in-law of the family due to his generosity and friendliness. The couple had their first child, a boy who was named after President Haja Jane, and again the christening ceremony, literally sponsored by President Jane, was huge and lavish. President Jane later appointed Suma as ambassador to Qatar, from where the couple occasionally called us in America just to greet my family. In 2014, President Jane visited Qatar, and soon after he left, Amin Najib, the wife of Suma Jane, called my wife to say that Her husband spoke to his brother, President Jane, to strengthen out our differences, and that Jane had agreed on the condition that I write an apology letter to him. I will not, was my response to the statement. I did not feel like apologizing to Jane for anything, was my reply to Ami through my wife. I believe I had been cooperative enough by refraining from constantly denouncing his government and policies since the publication of my book and the family marriage of Suma and Ami. That marked the end of Suma's attempts to reconcile me with his brother, although we continued to speak occasionally as we used to do. Then in 2014, Jane appointed Sir Farmer Gay as the Gambia's acting ambassador to Washington, D.C., United States of America. Gay was a former major in the Gambia Army and had been on a military scholarship in the USA when the coup happened in 1994. Following the coup, the Americans imposed sanctions on the Gambia and canceled all scholarships granted to Gambians before the coup. Instead of returning home, Major Gay decided to stay in the United States and was granted political asylum due to his opposition to the Jane government. In a bid to oust the APRC government, Gambians living abroad once sponsored Gay militarily, but all his attempts eventually failed, resulting in a significant amount of wasted money. Then, in 2012, Jane made an official visit to Washington, D.C., during which Major Sir Farmer Gay met him for a reconciliatory talk. Shortly after Jane's return to the Gambia, Gay also came back home, finally, after spending 18 years in exile in America. Surprisingly, Jane appointed him as press secretary at the office of the president, despite his limited or no knowledge in the field of journalism or its related responsibilities. Not long after Gay's appointment, President Jane elevated him to the position of Minister of Youth and Sports. But barely a year later, Jane removed him from the ministerial position and demoted him to the position of Deputy Ambassador to Mauritania. Then in 2014, President Jane unexpectedly appointed Major Farmer Gay as acting ambassador to the United States of America. Amazingly, Gay arrived in Washington, D.C., and in that same week, he contacted my only friend in the Bronx, New York, Mamadi Lang Keita. Keita was a lieutenant in the Gambia National Army who had migrated to the United States in 1992 and later received political asylum with the help of President Dembo Jawla. After speaking to Gay, Keita called me at my office, at my workplace, to explain the incident and what they had discussed together. According to Keita, Gay had asked him to reach out to me and inform me that one of his responsibilities was to initiate a reconciliatory effort from Jane with all dissidents in the USA. Apparently, I was one of those identified to ensure a friendly relationship with the APRC government. I didn't expect this message from Gay, but I had long ago sensed Jane's efforts to mollify me through my sister's business dealings and his brother's marriage to my wife's niece. Back in 2006, I had already published a revealing and frank book about the pros and cons of the Jane government since the coup in 1994, and accordingly, he was not at all pleased with the book's contents. Moreover, he had asked his brother Mr. Sumana Jane to tell me that he will pardon me for everything I had ever written and said about him since I left the country in 1999 if I wrote and apologized to him. But like I said, I indeed turned down that offer. Anyway, as soon as I started talking to Gay and helping him consolidate his mission to reach out to all the dissidents in the USA, he again brought up the suggestion from Jani that I should write him an apology letter for him to forgive me for all my sins committed against him. My friend, Lieutenant Keita, was strongly against the idea of the apology letter. He feared that Jani would use it to discredit me and my book by publishing it in all national and international media houses, just as he had done with other dissidents in the past. Despite Keita's concerns, I gave the matter a second thought, and ultimately I decided to write the letter. I believed that Jani wouldn't publish it once he read its contents. However, instead of sending the apology letter directly through Gay, I chose to address it through Jani's brother, Mr. Sumane Jane. I explained this decision to acting Ambassador Gay, who understood my reasons. I told him how it wouldn't be appropriate to write the apology letter through him when Sumana had previously approached me with a similar proposal, which I declined 2 years ago. In July 2014, I wrote an apology letter to him with all the titles on his name. His Excellency, Sheikh Professor Dr. Haja Jambar Jeku Abdul Jane Mansabila, President of the Republic of the Gambia and Commander-in-Chief of the Gambia Armed Forces. By sending the apology through Sumana, I hope to handle the situation with caution and avoid any potential manipulation by President Jane. And folks, this ends part of chapter 24, which opens a new realm in this book, Testimony of a Gambian Military Officer and Diplomat. So I thank you very much for your kind attention. Till next time, you all have a nice day.